It's officially UFC 300 fight week, and what an absolute great card we have this Saturday. Now, I'm going to go through every single fight and predict the outcome of each and every single fight. To kick off UFC 300, we have two former champions in Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Cody Garbrandt. And this is a great little starter for UFC 300 because this fight is one of those what's guaranteed to have a finish, in my opinion. I really don't see this going the distance. Cody Garbrandt doesn't have the best of chins, but he's able to knock anyone out, and he's very, very fast. He has a lot of power. And Deiveson Figueiredo, again, has a lot of power. And he has a really good chin as well, and just a very, very good striker. Now, I don't see Cody Garbrandt surviving this, if I'm being honest. I actually think this fight is not going to go past the first round. I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to absolutely walk through Cody Garbrandt, show him no respect, show Garbrandt no respect to his power whatsoever, walk him down, be in his face, and I think he's going to get that finish within the first 2 or 3 minutes of the fight, and Garbrandt's not going to get any offense off on Figueiredo. Even though Figueiredo's defense isn't the best, it's much better than Garbrandt's, and it was quite decent against Rob Font. So this is going to be an interesting fight, but I think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to absolutely walk through Cody Garbrandt. So I am very sorry for No Love fans, because I know he has got a lot of fans, but my boy is Deiveson Figueiredo, and I do genuinely believe that Figueiredo is going to walk through Cody Garbrandt. Now, I just clicked on the wrong thing there. I'm trying to get there you go. The next fight we have, and it's not letting me move, good website, UFC, cheers. You have Bobby Green taking on Jim Miller. This is a really good fight, in my opinion, and I think it's a hard fight to predict. Both of them are at a similar age. I'm pretty sure they're both towards 40. I think Jim Miller actually might be in his 40s, and Bobby Green's getting close to that age. And they're both in the same boat when it comes to their timing of a career. Jim Miller's had a nice little resurgence on a nice little run at the moment. Bobby Green's been fighting elite opposition, been picking up wins and losses, over Grant Dawson, but lost to Jaylen Turner in his last outing. And I think Bobby Green's going to win this by decision, either 30-27 or 29-28. I think it's a hard fight to predict, but I just think how awkward and unorthodox Bobby Green is. I don't think Jim Miller's going to be able to do much about it unless he mixes in his grappling. But even then, Bobby Green does have very solid grappling. So I'm going to go by a decision win for Bobby Green. I think it's going to be an okay fight. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner like you get in the first fight between Deiveson Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt. I think this might go to the judges. But I think it's a very fun fight, and I actually want Jim Miller to win because I want to see how far he can go with this winning streak that he's got at the moment, and give him like a ranked opponent. I think that would be pretty cool, and hopefully he can keep on pushing through the rankings until the wheels fall off. We then move on to Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know much about Marina Rodriguez. When it comes to women's MMA, I'm not as clued in. I feel like a lot of the fights get chucked onto the fight night cards, and I don't tune into the fight night cards as much anymore because the quality of them just isn't good at all, in my opinion. Hence why I don't watch them anymore. I live in the UK. I'm not staying up until fucking 5 o'clock in the morning to watch Derek Lewis versus fucking I don't know, just some fucking other random fatty. You know what I mean? Like I aren't wasting my morning and sacrificing the rest of my Sunday, waking up late for those. But I'm going to go with Marina Rodriguez. I love Jessica Andrade, absolutely just one of the few women MMA fighters who can get knockouts. But I think Marina Rodriguez is going to win from a casual perspective, I suppose you could say, because I'm just going off record here and what I've heard about Marina Rodriguez. Just an okay fight. A lot of people weren't happy with that fight being added to UFC 300, but it's whatever. I've got Marina Rodriguez by decision. We move on to Jaylen Turner versus Renato Moicano. Money Moicano, who's always eating steaks and drinking beers in Brazil. I've got Jaylen Turner. I love Money Moicano, but he doesn't have the best of chins, I don't think. He doesn't take a shot that well. He's been finished a few times against Aldo. He got finished against Fiziev. And he was very scared of striking against Drew Dober and took it to the mat. And Jaylen Turner has good grappling, and he also has scary, scary knockout power, especially for a lightweight. That obviously comes because he's so big for the division. He used to be at 170, but now he's at 155. I think this is a good fight, if I'm being honest with you. It's one of the latter fights what got added to the card. But I can see Jaylen Turner getting Moicano in the second round. Actually, scratch that. In the first round, Jaylen Turner starts off very, very fast. And he got Bobby Green in the first. And I think he's going to get Moicano in the first. I think he's going to knock Moicano out cold in the first round. And that upsets me because I love Money Moicano. But it's what I see happening. That is the end of the early prelims. Moving on to the actual prelims, we have Sadique Yousef taking on Diego Lopez. Sadique Yousef, he's kind of hit and miss. You know, he's lost to Arnold Alain in the past. He lost against Edson Barboza, where Edson Barboza was able to get a comeback win. I'd imagine he's learnt a lot from that comeback, from that loss against Edson Barboza. But Diego Lopez, man. Oh my god, this guy, short notice against Movsar Evelev was a massive problem for him. Took it on a week's notice, was unknown, and he put on such a great performance. Evelev beat him, and I think it was, you know, deserved. But, you know, Diego Lopez was causing a lot of problems for Movsar Evelev, and ever since that fight, he's only gone on to, like, knock out, like, is he 2 or 3 other opponents in good fashion? I think Diego Lopez is going to win this by submission in the second round. This is, I think I really do believe that Diego Lopez is going to win, but I think it's quite an interesting fight and a good test for Diego Lopez because the guys he has beaten since his fight against Movsar Evelev haven't been well known, whereas Sadique Yousef is quite well known and has had a few fights in the UFC. But I do believe that Diego Lopez, with his horrible tattoo and his long mullet, I think he's going to get the job done and get a second round submission against Sadique Yousef. We then move on to Holm versus Kayla Harrison. Obviously, the UFC debut of Kayla Harrison, and I think this is quite an easy one to predict. Kayla Harrison is going to wipe the floor against Holm and get a 30-27 decision. The only if about this fight is if Kayla Harrison can make the weight. You know, she's got to make 135, and I don't know if she can actually do that or not. It's going to be a struggle for her, and you know that plays into Holm's favour. If you've got a depleted Kayla Harrison in front of you, it's much better than a healthy version of Kayla Harrison. So that's like a good thing going for Holm, but I still believe even a depleted Kayla Harrison will be able to just wipe the floor with Holm, unfortunately, unless Holm can pull out, you know, a 2015 Ronda Rousey-esque victory. But I really don't see that happening now. Now that Holm's, I think, in her 40s. So Kayla Harrison, bad decision. But then we move on to Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. I don't know how this fight isn't on the main card. I would have 100% put this fight on the main card. But we'll get into that soon because there's a fight on the main card what shouldn't be on the main card. But we'll get into that in a sec. We have Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Obviously, Aljamain Sterling's 145 debut. And again, I think this is such an interesting matchup. You know, Calvin Kattar, been out the octagon for a while now, but got really good hands. Aljamain Sterling, obviously a great grappler, but a very good weapon of his at 135 was how big he was for the weight division. That's not going to carry over at 145, in my opinion. You can see that, you know, Calvin Kattar's got a 4-inch height advantage, and he's got just a 1-inch reach advantage, but he's also got good boxing. He's also got decent grappling. I don't know how this is going to go. I think I'm going to favour Calvin Kattar. I just don't know if Aljamain Sterling can hold Calvin Kattar down on the ground for 3 rounds or get the submission victory. And I think Calvin Kattar can keep him away and use his striking. And I think Calvin Kattar is going to win by 3rd round TKO. I think he's going to clip Aljo in the 3rd round. Aljo might get lazy with it in the 3rd round or something, and then he clips him. That's how I see it. It's a hard fight to call, in my opinion, but that's how I see it going. I think Aljo can have success at 145, but I just think it's a tricky matchup stylistically for his 145 debut. So then we move on to Jiří Procházka versus Alexander Rakic. Oh, for fuck's sake, the website is shit. There we go. Right, so Jiří Procházka versus Alexander Rakic. This is Rakic's first fight in ages. He obviously had his knee blown out against Jan Blachowicz. And we got Jiří Procházka, who just got finished by Alex Pereira the back end of last year. I don't know how this fight goes. Rakic is very boring. Jiří Procházka is very fun. But I feel like Rakic is going to have a lot of success taking him down. I'm going to go with a Rakic boring decision, 29-28, quite a close fight. Maybe Jiří Procházka hurts him in one of the rounds, but wins him the round, even though he was losing or something like that. But overall, I think Rakic is going to get the nod and get a decision win in a very boring fight and potentially a title eliminator. I don't think Jiří should get a title shot again if he beats Rakic. But I do believe Rakic should get a title shot if he wins, just to spice things up a bit more. But then we move on, as they close out the prelims, to BoNichols versus Cody Brundage. Why is this on the main card? I get it business-wise, you want to get this up-and-comer who's got loads of potential, undefeated, on your main card, get more eyes on him. But against Cody Brundage, oh my, like, come on, man. Like, I wouldn't have minded this fight, on the main card if it was someone decent, you know, maybe just outside the top 15 of the middleweight division, or even a ranked fighter. Because BoNichols talks a lot of shit, but he's better than this fighter, that fighter, this fighter, that fighter. Why not put him in there against someone who's somewhat decent, you know what I mean? And no discredit to Cody Brundage, but this just shouldn't be... Cody Brundage, 10-5, is on the main card of the biggest UFC pay-per-view of all time. Like, that's just crazy to me, man. Like, I don't know. Everyone knows what's going to happen. BoNichols going to get rid of him in the first round. Yippee, hooray, fucking Dana White's got a big smile on his face because his new prospect is just wiped the floor with a fucking can. And yeah, man, this fight shouldn't, it should be held, this should be opening up UFC 300. You got two former champions in Davison Figueiredo and Cody Garbrandt opening up this card. They should be on the main card, or Aljamain Sterling versus Finger should be on the main card, or Yair versus Rakic should be on the main card, not BoNichols versus Cody Brundage. I don't think BoNichols deserves the hate he's getting for being on the main card. You know, that's not his fault at all. He's just doing his job. I blame the UFC, but we know how this one's going to go. BoNichols going to wipe the floor with Cody Brundage, but Cody Brundage could do potentially one of the biggest upsets of all time. We then move on to a legit fight, what should be on the main card. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. A great fight this is. I'm going to have to back Arman Tsarukyan. I think he's going to win by decision. This one pains me because I love Charles Oliveira. I absolutely love Charles Oliveira. The champion has a name, but I just think Tsarukyan's going to get the job done personally. When it comes to striking, Charles Oliveira is much better. He fought better opposition. But I just think Tsarukyan, his time's now. I think, you know, he's going to use his grappling. I just think he's going to out-grapple Charles Oliveira. That's all I think it is. If Oliveira can keep it standing, which he probably won't because he's jiu-jitsu, he invites people to come down with him. If he keeps it on the feet, I could see him winning. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Arman Tsarukyan is going to take him down, keep him there, do what he wants with him. You know, Charles Oliveira creating some problems for him, but overall, I think Arman Tsarukyan is going to get the job done. Get a decision win, 30-27, and potentially be the next fighter for Islam Makhachev's title. You know, obviously, whoever wins this gets a rematch against him. They both lost to Islam Makhachev. I think this is such a good fight, very interesting one. I want Charles to win, but I think Arman Tsarukyan takes it. We then move on to the BMF title fight, Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, and I'm going with Justin Gaethje in the second round. I think he's going to finish Max Holloway, the first ever person to finish Max Holloway, maybe a third round finish. For leg kicks, Max Holloway never checks him. You know, the power that Justin Gaethje carries is just crazy. And I just see him chopping him at the legs of Holloway and then being able to find his chin and put him away. I really do. I know Max Holloway's fought at 155 before against Dustin Poirier, and he lost that fight. And I feel like that was because he didn't put on the proper weight. He seemed like a 145 at 155. And I know going into this fight, he's becoming a bit more different. He's going to put on that frame. He's going to put on that proper weight. And, you know, I think he will look better at 155. And I really want Max Holloway to win, but I just don't see it happening. I think Justin Gaethje is going to get the finish in an absolute violent fight. And that's what's guaranteed with this fight and why everyone's so excited for this fight, because it's guaranteed violence. Sort of like Garbrandt and Figueiredo, but on another level, because with Justin Gaethje, he's never been in a boring fight. And you could say the same against Max Holloway. But then you move on to the co-main event between Zhang Yan and Yan Yue for the women's strawweight title bout. I'm so sorry if I just butchered a name. I'm not the best at pronunciation. But I feel like no one really cares about this fight. You know, it's kind of stuck in a hard position because it's in between, it's the co-main, and it's in between Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway and Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. It's stuck in a bad position, man, and I feel for them, but I think Zhang Weili is going to get... I think she's going to get a fourth round TKO victory. I think she'll end up taking Yan down and just pummeling her and getting the stoppage win. You know, this is it. I think this is a good fight. I don't think it's super interesting. It's just okay. I don't think it was the best of fights to have on UFC 300 personally. You could have had something else rather than this fight, maybe Leon versus Bilal. But I don't know. I don't think this fight should really be on UFC 300, but it's whatever now. I think Zhang Yan is going to win this quite comfortably. But we then move on to the main event. A lot of people complained about this main event. I don't really understand it. It's still a banger of a fight. Someone's guaranteed to have the lights taken out, in my opinion. I really don't see this going the distance at all. And I think Jamahal Hill is going to knock out Alex Pereira. Now, hear me out. I know everyone loves Alex Pereira. I prefer Alex Pereira over Jamahal Hill. I do like Hill, but I love Alex Pereira. But stylistically, man, Hill wins, I think. Alex Pereira, great offensively, so good offensively, so powerful. But defensively, just his chin up in the air. He's just not that good when it comes to his defensive side. And Hill has really good hands. You know, he looked very impressive against Glover Teixeira. You know, Jiri Prochazka went life and death against Glover Teixeira, and then you had Jamahal Hill take it on short notice, went the distance for the 5 rounds for the first time in his career, and looked amazing whilst doing so. Whilst it was a hard fight for him stylistically, and he didn't have a full training camp. But I think Jamahal Hill's going to find Alex Pereira's chin. I really do. They're identical in terms of height and the reach. I just think Jamahal Hill's going to catch him. I do. I'm scared for Hill when it comes to the calf kicks, considering I'm pretty sure it was his leg what got injured, you know. So Alex Pereira chopping at your legs when you had a leg injury isn't the best. I could genuinely see Alex Pereira winning this, but I think Hill wins it, man. I really, really do. I understand why people are picking Alex Pereira, but I think people are counting out Hill way too much, and I think Hill's going to get the job done at UFC 300. And those are my predictions for UFC 300. Let me know what you're going to be predicting for the fights at UFC 300 and whether you agree with some of my predictions and which fight you are looking forward to the most. I'm going to try to post pretty much throughout the entire week during the build-up of UFC 300. It makes a lot of sense. But on Friday and the weekend, unfortunately, I won't be able to post anything to YouTube as I will be on holiday. But if you want to still see MMA content by me, I will be doing more MMA videos on my TikTok, because obviously I can take my phone on holiday. I can't take my entire PC setup on holiday, unfortunately. So yeah, I'll keep you updated with videos on my TikTok where I talk about MMA videos. But for my YouTube on the weekend, I won't be able to talk about much, unfortunately. And I'm also going to be doing a live watch along on TikTok for UFC 300. So if you're interested in that, make sure to tag along. And that's going to be it for my first video on Alfredo MMA.